as you guys are coming into the neighborhood. Dove, I would think you feel a little bit more comfortable here.
I was actually going to say one of my contacts, Bogdan Ravinovich, the Siberian tiger man who's a dock worker.
Nice.
He actually, you said that there's the way they say it in this game is a Yehudist.
Mm-hmm.
He is one. He's a what are they called? A son of David.
Right.
And I would love to. And we never established his home. We just established that he worked at the dock. I would imagine if you're describing this part of town to have a community like that he would probably live here.
Oh, most definitely. A lot of the sailors and stuff that work the docks, or the longshoremen that work the docks down there. Yeah.
So
I know they're in Whitechapel.
I would love to go visit him, and especially because Dove doesn't mind a tussle, and while his local hero status doesn't apply here, they probably at least have heard stories of him.
Sure.
So they probably at bare minimum know not to mess with him.
You said bear.
Yeah,
Yes. Every time I say bear, somebody's going to do it.
I tried not to say anything, but then I saw Dr. Loom smile. I'm like,
But
right.
So I think he's going to find Bogdan, and he's going to try and get some information. Maybe have Bogdan walk him around town.
Okay. All right. So let's frame the scene then. So you're heading into Whitechapel, like you said. There's an area, one of the squares, and I guess I'm kind of picturing something like if you guys have seen the Demon Barber of Sweeney Todd. If you've seen Sweeney Todd, the Tim Burton version, there's that market square where they have the hair clipping or the shaving challenge, and it's kind of like a neighborhood like that where you guys walk in. So there's like a little square area where they have places where people can put up their tents and sell their wares. Right now, everything's pretty much closed down except for a few stragglers who are selling things that don't normally get sold during the day. But for the time of night, it is fairly congested. So, people speaking in different languages. You do hear smatterings of Russian, even some Yiddish, lots of Irish, just straight up Gaelic. You're hearing, people speaking in Gaelic. It's a very opposite feel from Kensington. I mean, you couldn't find a more polar opposite place to go than from the Doyle's house to Whitechapel. So
Dove feels much more comfortable here.
So how does this? How do the rest of you handle this?
It's actually very fitting that Nate wasn't here tonight, so that we could go, because oh my goodness, our nobleman would not fit well here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a funny story in opposites between him and Dove.
Yeah, I was kind of I was on the fence about that. It would have been an interesting role play, but Mr. Joya, Mr. Joya, how would we start with you? How do you react to this place?
Probably a little reserved because this isn't his wheelhouse, but I don't think he's completely unfamiliar with it because one of my Sigourney, one of my contacts, is lower class, a tattooist. I'm trying to think if they would live in this specific area though.
Depending upon who she would serve. If she's serving some of the lower classes as far as providing them with tattoos, then possibly.
They're probably more of a lower class establishment.
Okay. And there's also the alternative, say a Soho district, where you've got the people who are quote unquote slumming it who want to get tattoos, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that probably
that sounds very Choyo right there.
totally up to you. If you want to have that happen here, that is not a problem. It's not a problem. It's always great to develop contacts and stuff.
You've always got one contact here with doves, but I mean, I do really want to bring Sigourney in because they're a fun character.
All right. So yeah, totally up. I mean, if you want to have her be here, totally cool. Totally fine with it.
They're more of a they. It's like, who knows?
Totally fine for them. All right. Well, yeah. Let me know. So right now you're a little more reserved, but it's not completely out of your wheelhouse right now as far as how you're kind of You're
like I know how to handle myself in a general sense.
There you go. Okay. All right, Miss Russell. How about you?
She's not familiar with this area very much. I mean, obviously, she's only been in the city for a short amount of time, relatively speaking. But she's not uncomfortable being in this type of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. There's parts of Hong Kong where she grew up that would have been similar.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself isn't intimidating. She knows, the type of behavior to have and the places that she should be going places with an escort. So, she knows how to handle herself in the situation. She's not uncomfortable, but she's not at home either.
All right. And then Dr. Loom, how about you?
Dr. Loom would be entirely unfamiliar with this sort of area, having grown up in a fairly well-to-do middle-class merchant family and then going to an upper-class school. He would refrain from looking down on people because he had such a history of people looking down on him from higher social status, and so he would not do that intentionally, but on the other hand, he doesn't necessarily have the normal interpersonal skills for that to be channeled into anything approaching respect. And so he probably would look around nervously and say something like, finally I get to see where the cadavers are sourced from. And then mostly just stay close to the rest of the group.
In other words, he would open the door, but he would use a handkerchief to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Sort of chips you can pick up, yeah. So I guess maybe the first stop would be Bogdan's place. So we'll go with that. You find a kind of a tenement or a project area where, I haven't developed the projects yet. So it'd be a tenement area where people are hanging out lines of clothing and stuff, are kind of failing miserably to dry in the fog-laden air. But it's just, it feels like the buildings are kind of closing in on you as you're walking through some of the alleyways that lead towards where Bogdan's residence is. And you find the place. He lives probably like on the second or third floor, tiny flat. And as you make your way up the stairs, the wood creaking beneath your feet, the sounds of just a cacophony of different voices and shouts in different languages, and clanging pots and pans, people fighting, and then some people laughing. You pass a carousing man who's drinking in the hallway for no real reason other than just to drink. And and you arrive at the door to one Bogdan. What's his last name again?
Rabinovich.
Rabinovich. So one Bogdan Rabinovich.
And how well do you know this person?
Bogdan is how I know things on the docks. Bogdan is how I receive my materials. Bogdan also is the man who kept me alive when no one else did. I'm very well. I trust this man.
He looks around and just says, well, I hope he's not the man that now gets us all killed.
Me too.
Dr. Loom just starts sputtering.
That's a lot of confidence.
Encouraging.
And then just turns away in disgust.
So how do you just kind of give a rap to the door, or?
Yeah, I just give a knock.
All right, so after a moment, you just you hear some like rustling, some rustling in the back. Poltergeist, Mr. Poltergeist. And so after a moment, the door opens up, and there's this Siberian tiger. It's kind of has, again, Siberian tiger head and taller frame, not quite as obviously as tall as deer dove poles, but an imposing figure nonetheless. Anything specific or that calls this guy out that you want to add?
Everything. I just always imagined him with a bowler hat. I imagined him kind of wearing just your typical dock worker but home kind of look, with the slacks with suspenders that aren't pulled up, they're just kind of hanging off to the side. Just
that
probably wearing
dirty t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah, probably just wearing an undershirt.
Yeah, I love it. And his fur is kind of sprouting up in all different directions and everything.
Yeah, I imagined that when he's at the dock, he's a little bit more on the quiet and reserved side, because he realizes that he's there, because unlike Dove, who has a patron who got him to the middle class, Bogdan is very much Beastman, and he still feels that.
Right.
So, so Bogdan is, but being here, being home, being amongst other Beastmen, other foreigners, he's a little bit more confident with himself.
Right.
But, yeah.
All right.
Now there's two of them.
So you knock on the door, and the door first opens briefly for a second, and you see his these pearlescent eyes just kind of looking out, and then he opens them up, and then a waft of cigar smoke kind of puffs out into the hallway, and he throws the door open, and he says, "Drov, perfect much drug." And he goes up and gives you a big hug, and
a bear hug.
A bear hug. And he's kind of saying things in Russian, and basically says, well, what brings you to this area of the city?
So I'm going to speak in Russian. So I'm going to say it unaccented, just because it would be in Russian. I'm basically going to tell him it's absolutely strange business that brings us out here tonight. And I'm basically going to tell him, I won't tell him the details, because while Bogdan is trustworthy, I'm pretty confident that there are other people with paper-thin walls that aren't.
Right.
But I'm going to let him know that we're looking for young children who seem out of place in the neighborhood.
It's like, young children out of place. Who are your friends? And he's asking this in Russian, I should say. So I will do an unaccented as well. So who are your friends?
Yeah. I'm basically going to introduce all of them, and I'll do this in English. I'll basically just tell them all that these are my associates, and just let him deal with that. This is we've been, and then go back into Russian, and say we've been hired to find these children.
If it is children that you're looking for, it's going to be difficult, my friend. And so he goes, oh, come inside. He goes in, and he knocks on it's a real narrow hallway that kind of leads into a single room, but there's another door over on the right, and he points over there, and he says, the two mule boys are over there. Don't mind them. They make noises, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. They try and cook, but they're mules. They don't know how to eat. And so he raps on the door, and then you hear from behind the door, you hear a couple of gruff-sounding Gaelic accent, Irish accented voices shouting back at him.
Nice.
But so he brings you over, and he pulls aside a drape that leads that has a window, and he's pointing outside. He says, "Look, my friend, there's a child there, one child there. You're going to have to be more specific. They look out of place. Okay."
I'm basically going to just lean in real close and real quiet, and says, Look, these children, they come from Kensington. They are definitely not from here. You would obviously know that they are not from here. They do not act like us. They do not look like us. They are probably trying to find something. They are probably stumbling through this city. I'm just trying to find them and bring them home to their parents.
Ever the hero, eh? Okay, I'll be glad to help. Well, I can't say that what I have seen. I have not seen children out of place. But is there a point where he's gonna
jump in. He says, Bogdan, I know that there's nothing that happens here or in the docks that you do not know. If you do not know, then you know someone who knows.
He takes a puff of his cigarette and he's like, you flatter your friend. That's what you do. He's flattering me in front of you. That is all. And
I'm gonna jump in, and this one is very much going to be in Russian. He says, "You're the one who got me the O'Malleys. You delivered them into my hands." And he says, "I do not forget these things."
Yes, that is them. We will need to talk about that case or that matter at another time. But okay, so. What these two children? How old are they?
What is it? 15 and 13. We figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're Eldrin, so they look younger.
Yeah.
So and you guys can pipe in. I mean, if you guys want to jump in, I mean, he's fairly openly talking with either of you, and if those speaking in Russian, he does that too. But
so I'll say exactly that. 15 and 13, but they're Eldrin.
And we don't necessarily need them alive. Their bodies would do fine.
Doctor!
Well, just saying.
It would make job much more difficult. You'll have to go down to a chapel morgue. Very hard to find things down there without the right amount of coppers, if you know what I mean. But if you look for children, Eldrin children, I do not see many Eldrin here. They would stand out. So... There is something that does come to mind. There is there is an Eldrin that is down at a pub, not but 2 blocks from here.
Let me guess, 10 Bells.
Oh yes, the 10 Bells, a good pub. It's hard to get into, but Bogdan has his ways. He gets in where Bogdan wants.
Is it possible that Bogdan can have his ways with his friends? Perhaps get his friends in the door?
Well, of course. There is always ways to get people into places that they normally would not go. But I look at your companions here. I look at you, Dolph. You would be welcome in 10 Bells. It would not be difficult to come inside. So, yes, I will be glad to take you there. And he stands up and he grabs onto his cheroot and holds it in his mouth, and he puts on his suspenders, and he goes and grabs a coat, and he's like, "Come, everyone follow Bogdan." And he knocks on the door. He's all, "Hey, you two asses, be good in here. Do not trash my flat." And then they yell back at him.
And children, he can say that because they're donkeys.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, so they're yelling back at him in Gaelic, and so he heads outside and closes the door and leads you guys down into the streets. So, children come into Whitechapel. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to what is the best modern slum it? Are they trying to slum it? They want to see how other half live. Is this what it is?
Seems like it.
This one will be in Russian, and I'm pretty confident Miranda will get a bad look at me for this. And he says, "They are spoiled brat children." It's quite possible that they think that this being here will make them look better, make them feel better than us.
We know you've dead of Kafka in that, though. Many children like this outside of this place. And you, dwarf, why you automatically think that they are dead? Whitechapel is not as dangerous as you would think.
I don't necessarily believe that they are dead. I'm just saying that it is not terribly inconvenient to us if that happens to be the case, as long as we can return an identifiable corpse.
My. The Doyle, he bumps.
Would not be pleased.
Yeah. He bumps Dove's shoulder. He's like, Doyle, where do you find such people? Such a mercenary attitude could have been useful 2 months ago.
Again, in Russian, because the doctor doesn't speak it. We put up with the dwarf.
Also, even though we are going to a pub, I do not drink ethanol. It is fuel.
Miranda keeps a very straight face during that comment from Dove.
He returns in Russian. He says, "Put up with him. I totally like this guy."
He says, when this is over, I'm going to tell you a story about an ogre. It'll make your night.
What are you two saying? What are they saying? Turns to...
Clearly nothing to be concerned about, Doctor.
He's reminiscing about some old times.
He's going to turn to Loam and he says, "It's been a while since I've seen my friend. This is all we're talking about."
In Russian, he says, "It has been a while since I've wrestled an ogre." So he looks over at Dr. Loom and then thinks back like this, and he's like, And he takes another puff on his cigar and continues on. So, hopefully not some out of matter of convenience for you to find children dead, but Bogdan will do his best to get you where you're going, so that perhaps this will not be the fate that you find them enjoying. Sometimes I look around this area of town and I think, perhaps better dead or better back in Mother Russia. But then again, could not get good cigars in Mother Russia. All I have is vodka and perhaps the occasional potato, if allowed.
Dove's basically going to put his arm around Bogdan. He says, and he's actually going to say this in English. He says, "My friend, I don't believe that Mother Russia has any room for either of us anymore."
Oh, this is true. We allow the redcoats to go up there and clean out Mother Russia for us. When they're done, we go back in, we take over, and we say, "This is the place where the Iron Rusas is going to be formed. This is the place that is going to be our home going forward." Oh yes.
And at that point, because he's already got his arm around him, he gives him like a little, he grabs him and he kind of just hits it. He's yes, and just like buddies do.
Watch fur. I've just recently had to shed my coat. So he leads you guys over to the 10 Bells pub. And you guys can definitely hear the place as you're approaching. The sound of carousing and that sort of thing is just completely evident. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and bring you guys over. Boom. There you are. And what I want to do, I have everything kind of shrunken down a bit so that can be seen. Alright. So, not quite showing up there for the guys at home. Let me move some things around while I talk. So the front of the 10 Bells is you find the emblem pretty quick. I mean, it matches that matchbox that you found earlier in the kids' room, and the front door is open. There's plenty of people inside. You hear a lot of music. It's kind of like an Irish jig type thing that's being played right now. Lots of stomping feet and everything. So, all right. So, going into the front door here. Let's see. We will do this. All right. Yeah. I realize that the hour is getting late for our folks in the east, so I'm making sure that we end on a good note here. Alright, so
I have the utmost faith in your abilities.
Easy. That's pressure that you're putting on my shoulders. That's done. Mark that here. Okay. I gotta keep up with my notes. You guys keep going in different directions. So, all right. So, the reputation of the 10 bells, Bogdan kind of like gives you a little bit of a walkthrough as you guys are approaching. The place is known for its home brew of beer. It's been making beer since 1666, so just over 200 years. It's been refining its, or just close to 200 years. It's been refining its trade. It's got a reputation for its decent food, and contrary to some of the surround of Whitechapel, it's actually viewed as a somewhat respectable place to go for thirsty Londoners. But it gives kind of a good mix of, I can get something to eat, I can get something to drink that's good, but I can also be on the cusp of danger of Whitechapel. And so that's kind of the place that's being described to you. It's closer to Commercial Street. Remember that kind of a border, that unspoken border that I talked about earlier. So it's a little bit better patrolled than most areas of the neighborhood. So you'll actually pass by a few cops on the sidewalks, but sidewalks are also likewise lined with ladies of the night and gentlemen gigolos, as it were, doing their business. So
plying their trade.
Yes. But the 10 bells, kind of in front of you, kind of stands as an ironic beacon amongst all of the supposed misery that's behind you, but then the joy of how Bogdan kind of comports himself kind of brings you into this place where, again, there's kind of that celebratory air inside. So as you guys open the door, you arrive at the 10 bells, and greeted with a fast-paced Irish jig or Irish music, as it were, people stomping on the ground, clapping their hands, and the guitar playing, and the violins being played. And yeah, there you are. So it's packed in here. Bogdan kind of walks you guys in and says, "So this is 10 bells. Or he's yelling at this point. This is 10 bells. You'll find lots of people here, but there is one person that I think you may want to talk to. He is. I don't wish to make it sound like they all hang out together, but there is one Eldrin that is here that I know of. And he usually hangs out in the back. He is usually back there. And, yes, let's see." So he's kind of like winding you guys through. And, so yeah, there in the back, you find a group of people that are gathered around a table. One of them is standing up and is speaking in grandiose terms about how just why is it necessary for the people to have to suffer through some form of conscription? Why is it necessary that they can't find their own people to fight their wars?
Does this voice sound familiar?
You can check and see.
As in the gentleman who was spouting his head off earlier from the crowd?
No, this one has a deeper tenor to it. The other one was kind of like had a higher pitch and had that. That's
fun. I just wanted to see if we were looking at the same rabble rouser or not.
Gotcha. Good call though. Glad you remember that. So you have that. The one that's speaking is a human, and arrayed around him are a couple other humans. There's actually a lionman that's there. There's a couple of dwarves that are there as well. There is one ogre that is standing in the back, real hulking-looking guy that has kind of a tank top, and he's got the breeches on that kind of come up to his belly button, and actually has a brown derby hat on. right now. And so he's wearing that. It's kind of cocked to the side. And he's just kind of standing over the shoulder of the guy. So there's that. You do notice that there is an Eldrin at the table.
So basically, I'd want to make myself known. So I'll basically walk over and I'll pull the traditional bar thing, which is basically like, do you mind if I sit? Maybe have drink.
So and actually it's the Eldrin fellow that looks over at you, and as you look at him, you do see kind of a slight resemblance to Mrs. Doyle in his face, and it may be because you're kind of expecting it a little bit, but yeah, he says, "Oh, right, yes, please, come on in. These are the people that you're talking about here." And he points towards Bogdan. He points towards Dove. He looks at Dr. Loom, and he's like, probably not him, but he's like, these are the people who you are talking about that are at risk. They're at risk of having to suffer through this government's necessity to have war against another country. I mean, we're getting torn apart out there. So please come, have a seat. He actually gets up and gives you his chair.
I appreciate your concern. What is your name?
Oh, my name is Robert. What's yours?
Robert. Let me guess. Is your last name Doyle?
And several of the people who are looking around all look back, and they look at Dove, and they all focus. If it wasn't for the music being so far away, I probably would have stopped too. But yeah, everybody focuses on Dove at that announcement, and that's where we'll pause it for the evening. We'll carry it into our next session.
I do still love it when me just stating the painfully obvious is where we end.
That's right. Well, we've been having a lot of fun here, and I think that it's always the logistics of having late evenings on the East in the Central Time Zone, and then me having the luxury of being in the SoCal. So I always need to be aware of the time frame, because right now it is a big old 1 a.m.
Yeah, and normally I can hack it, but having a cold, I'm like actually falling asleep.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah,
So,
I'm fading fast too, so.
Yeah, no worries at all. So, we've got a few episodes that are going to have already kind of released over the last few weeks. So, no worries. We're probably kind of going into January for the next time that we get together. But we should have plenty of material that'll be coming out in the meantime. So, you at home probably have already seen said material. At least I hope you did. But yeah, great evening. Anything that you guys want to kind of request for next time? Anything that you want to make sure that we make a note of now, or do you think we've kind of satisfied all that?
Not really. If you need more info on Sigourney and stuff for next time, I could.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then Mike, if you want to flesh out Bogdan a little bit more, I think we had fun just kind of teaming up on it and just kind of fleshing him out. So I hope I didn't take too many liberties with your NPC there.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, so great. Okay, well, cool, guys. Then we will get something scheduled up for January and continue going forward. We actually left the Doyle residence, so that was a miracle. But we're having way too much fun there, so my hat's off to you guys for just doing a great job. So yeah. So thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. We are having a bunch of fun. We hope you're having a bunch of fun watching these episodes because we're doing it for you. Well, secretly, we're just kind of enjoy doing this anyway. But yeah, we're definitely glad to have you along for the ride. So we will talk to you all soon. Have a great time. Keep gaming. Have fun. Get together. That's what it's all about.